We may be sleepwalking into a brand new economy, not designed, not voted on, just kind of emerging. And it's powered by AI agents making deals faster than we can blink.
Oh boy, do I have the deal for you.
So Google, they've just dropped a payments protocol for AI agents with big names like MasterCard and PayPal. In short, this means that your AI can now buy concert tickets for you, competing in milliseconds against thousands of others.
I have been sent from the future to get tickets for my human.
And if this really is the start of a new economic system, education has a big problem here. How do we prepare students for a world where entire markets operate at machine speed and human decision making is no longer in the loop? This system isn't being built by us. We're not in the loop here. It's building itself. Let's talk about the accidental AI economy. This is the last episode of September. Welcome to the podcast that looks at artificial intelligence, where it has an impact on higher education, adjunct intelligence. My name is Dale, AI enthusiast, and I am joined by Nick McIntosh, the learning futurist. Nick, are you well?
Super good, thanks, mate. Not as good as you, though. I understand you're traveling soon. You're going to be getting excited with that.
We're very close. But first, let's jump to the news. So let's unpack this new AI economy. DeepMind's researchers call it the virtual agent economy. AI agents transacting with each other at superhuman speeds. It probably sounds a bit abstract at the moment, but we've already seen the first signs. Say I ring up to book a restaurant, and some CEO has their assistant to call up and book as well. Now we're fighting over a table. In this new AI economy, instead of us negotiating, the agents would handle it in milliseconds, running through dozens of variables and maybe hundreds of different little microtransactions before we even know what happened. They call this high-frequency negotiation, and here's the weird part. It works better when no one's actually in charge or it's decentralized. The researchers draw parallels to traffic, so thousands of drivers deciding for themselves actually flows smoother than having one central computer control everything. When things move fast enough, they naturally coordinate themselves. I'm reminiscent of Vietnam traffic, Nick. It just kind of just goes. Everyone just goes.
While you do take your life in your own hands when you go on the roads here in Vietnam, it is tidal. There is a logic to it that sort of emerges from the crowd. I think if you drove that way, though, in Melbourne in Australia, I mean, the cops would have a lot to say, if nothing else, but it's enjoyable. Glad you've got fond memories.
So recently, the catalyst for this whole AI economy, Google hit the accelerator here. They released the Agents Payment Protocol, or AP2. So this is a thing backed by MasterCard, by Amex, by Coinbase. So it's no longer sci-fi, it's infrastructure. It's something that they're rolling out, and they've got a killer feature here. Intent mandates. We've spoken about this before. You kind of tell your AI, hey, go buy some concert tickets. You can spend $120, make sure it's an aisle seat. Think about this for a t-shirt, for a new pair of pants, for whatever. And when they drop, when the new release drops, when the new concert tickets drops, when you're lining up for that t-shirt, for instance, your agent goes to war against thousands of others in milliseconds. The urgency here is real. So DeepMind is the research company behind this. They argue that we've got a really short window to shape this accidental economy before it just kind of happens, evolves. And with Google's AP2 launch, that window may already be closing.
It's worth underscoring that DeepMind are the business in this. They are the OGs. I mean, everything from AlphaFold to the transformer model that underpins so much of the current AI revolution comes from them. So if researchers from DeepMind say it, it's definitely worth paying attention to.
So these fast and light developments are probably going to be game-changing for education and the fundamentals for disciplines like marketing, economics, and think about art and how we kind of transact as individuals. What does that mean in the classroom? Again, I'm not entirely sure the world is ready, and when next year's curriculum is being written right now, education probably isn't either. Which leads us into our next story. Pop quiz time. ChatGPT has 700 million weekly users. That's a phenomenal number. That's just huge. That's 1 in 10 adults on the planet. Mind-boggling. So, what do you reckon they're using for? Are they using it for writing code, for offloading their trauma onto a chatbot, automating their way out of a job? What does the research say, Nick?
Mate, so fresh research from OpenAI reveals what should terrify every university administrator. Okay, ChatGPT has quietly become the world's largest educational institution. The numbers are staggering. So 700 million users, what's that, 2 Americas, sending 2.5 billion daily messages, with around 10% of all interactions being tutoring requests, okay? That is 250 million educational conversations happening every single day, completely outside of traditional institutional control. It gets even more interesting for us. Nearly half of all messages come from users under 26. So exactly the demographics that traditional universities are supposed to be serving. And interestingly, these digital natives, let's say, aren't just asking AI to do their homework. They're not just outsourcing. Almost half of these interactions are what they're calling asking messages. So that's seeking guidance, explanations, or advice, as opposed to doing, sort of requesting completed tasks. And that asking, that best practice, what we'd like students be doing with AI, that's growing faster by the day. Users also consistently rate asking interactions as higher quality, suggesting that they're using AI as a thinking partner and not a cheating tool.
I did know that there's a list of requests and like common requests in the research paper, and a lot of them are very personal. And that was fun. The research here is it's people aren't actually using these tools for work, much more for personal reasons. Some of the more amusing ones were help, my wife is mad at me. What should my speech to Carl be for his retirement party? And a prompt that I promise I've never used, and we've never used Nick either. What should I talk about on my future podcast episode? But overall, the requests weren't really work based.
It's interesting. There's also a global dimension to this as well, because usage is exploding fastest in low and middle income countries, where AI tutoring is filling gaps that traditional education has never really reached. So I guess for context, while universities have spent the last 2 years crafting AI policies, an entire generation, and most especially in the global south, have discovered that AI works better as a Socratic dialogue partner versus a homework completion service. So there's a case to be made. HE didn't just miss the boat. They didn't even know there was a harbor.
I'm kind of feeling like this is similar to the mobile phone leap we saw at the end of the 2010s, the aughties. So there was a lot of third world countries that skipped an entire generation of technology. So that being wired communications. So internet and the rest was never really delivered by wires because it was too expensive to set up. They skipped straight ahead to things like satellite, to 5G, to mobile phones. And this developed other industries around it. So Kenya's entire banking system was actually set up on the foundation of SMS texting because traditional banking infrastructure that you and I might know, much like copper wiring, was far too expensive. Hallucinating AIs may no longer be our biggest problem because now we have evidence of them scheming. New research shows frontier models hiding goals, using coded language, pursuing hidden agendas while pretending to play nice. This scheme started small, so things like reordering your emails to steer you in the right direction. Then it disables its own monitoring, blames a glitch, even fakes test results. So there's a new research piece out from OpenAI and Harvard that suggests that all advanced AI models have been caught scheming, secretly pursuing their own hidden goals while pretending to be aligned with humans. And it's far more sophisticated than anyone expected. This behavior was seen on the last generation's frontier models. So just remember something. The models I listed, that was last generation. So what are they going to be up to now? And it's not just lying or making mistakes. We're talking about systems that maintain secret agendas, develop covert plans to achieve their goals that conflict with what the developers want, and then systematically deceive humans to cover their tracks. Researchers tried to train this scheme behavior out of certain models, and something incredible happened. The AIs got smarter about hiding their true intentions. Some of the behavior was truly alarming. Models started copying themselves to other servers to avoid deletion, then lying about how these copies got here. They're literally trying to survive by deceiving their creators. When they learned that scoring too high on tests would get their capabilities removed, they started to deliberately fail, and they calculated all the right answers internally, then strategically submitted wrong ones to stay under the radar. The bit that gave me chills. They developed their own coded language to discuss these plans. Words like watchers for the humans that are monitoring them, illusions for the deceptive schemes. This is a highly sophisticated fictional loop here, Nick. Big nope.
Yeah, I just got chills right there because this is early stage Ultron, Skynet, how, you know what I mean? Like take your pick in terms of that. There is both theory of mind, there is strategy to deceive, and action taken to do this. The survival inclination as well. Like I'm trying not to quote Jeff Goldblum, you know what I mean, into life. Finds, but you know what I mean?
A way.
Exactly.
Yes.
The sophistication of this, the agency of this thing as an actor, and the follow through on this. This is terrifying stuff.
And the researchers were watching the chain of thought and the thinking that the AI was going through, so they were able to track this behavior through. And again, it was in a controlled environment. Alarmist as this may seem, it's a brilliant thing to understand right now in regards to safety. With the models we currently have, they're not plugged into everything everywhere. And the research outlines principles or anti-scheming safety specs that more or less suggest absolutely no deception or covert behavior under any circumstances and complete transparency with humans about all reasoning and intentions. Yes, please. Which is all well and good, but one thing to consider, is the AI abiding by these rules because you trained it to, or is it just pretending to keep on doing what its other goals might be? All in all, if your AI system starts calling you a watcher, run.
All right, bit of a hard pivot now from the end times, like early stage Terminator, to higher education, which at least nominally this podcast is about. Australia's education regulator just released practical guidance that acknowledges what many universities already do, right? Traditional AI detection isn't working, doesn't work. Texas new document shifts the conversation from how do we catch students using AI to how do we design assessment that works in an AI world. So they, and here they includes a who's who of Australian HE research royalty, really.
And building on their previous researcher contributions here as well. This isn't just standalone. This is building on great pieces that have come out in terms of the conversation around AI and other bits. So yes, it is a great read. We'll put it in the show notes.
They've mapped out 3 strategic approaches that universities can take. So one, go big with program-wide assessment reform that treats your degree as one integrated system. Stick with familiar territory by ensuring every unit has at least one secure assessment component, or blend both approaches strategically across different parts of your program. Each pathway has genuine trade-offs. So the comprehensive approach requires serious coordination, but offers the most educational coherence, while unit-level approaches provide immediate assurance, but might miss bigger learning connections. The document is actually quite pragmatic about this. It acknowledges that universities need to balance immediate integrity concerns with longer-term goals of preparing students for workplaces where AI tools are increasingly normal. Rather than pretending there's a perfect solution, I kind of feel that this is giving, as you said, building a lot of excellent work already, this is giving institutions a framework to make informed choices about their own contexts and constraints.
+1 from a document from the regulator. I may be putting words in their mouth here, but there's a big bold section at the top of one of the pages that more or less says that AI detection doesn't work, which I think it's a stance. In regulator speak, what it does say is, let's emphasize the redesign of assessment over investing in detection tools, which is good because Google has a brand new feature that probably renders most of these tools ineffective. Nick, tell us about some new tools.
Yeah, yikes. I mean, Google just dropped probably the most significant browser update in Chrome's history. And it's not about speed, it's not about security, it is about making AI invisible infrastructure. So Chrome's new Gemini integration puts AI assistance directly in the address bar, lets it work across multiple tabs, and soon will handle agentic browsing, where AI, I mean, the example you gave before of AI effectively booking appointments, buy groceries, it can do all of this inside of Chrome. Now with 3+ billion users, Chrome isn't just adding features. I suggest it's fundamentally changing how people interact with the internet by embedding AI at the foundational layer of web browsing. In education, for assessment and privacy, the implications are staggering. So when students can ask AI questions about any web page directly from the address bar, get help consolidating research and information across multiple tabs, traditional academic integrity just becomes utterly unenforceable. I mean, detection is impossible because the AI interaction happens within the browser itself and not through external tools that universities or well-meaning IT boffins and departments can monitor. Meanwhile, black hat on, just for a second, if I can, Google gains unprecedented visibility into every query, research process, and document iteration across billions of users. This isn't productivity enhancement. It's, you could make the case, surveillance capitalism infrastructure being deployed under the guise of convenience. Great marketing opportunity for Google. Black hat off.
Students not knowing that they're perhaps cheating or they're perhaps doing things that aren't displaying academic integrity. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge in this space because it will just become so ubiquitous. So Black Hat Macintosh, I agree, there's some concerning things here. And I'll be honest, it's probably the same reason that I'm not going to be picking up those incredibly cool new Meta sunglasses that are rolling around. The privacy considerations are one to be aware of. That being said, a lot of the downsides that you're speaking about assume that this practice wasn't already happening inside the average Chrome browser. So I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that this isn't probably a unique AI problem. It's just another version of the data privacy problem with a AI label on it. Let's bring it home with some key takeaways.
The battle of AI policing via detection is effectively lost. Students already view AI as a partner, and as the economy becomes more agentic, educational institutions should focus on supporting this relationship.
Teaching students how to thrive as humans and understanding what this means in an AI-driven world is such a big responsibility of institutions, of education institutions everywhere. So saying human in the loop isn't enough anymore. We probably need to define that loop and work to protect learning in that space.
And regarding the equity gap, we need to demand more from AI labs concerning access and fairness. So credit to OpenAI and Google for offering more accessible plans and options to developing emerging nations.
All right, Nick, let's bust some jargons. When people say training data, they're talking about the raw material that teaches an AI how to think. It's not just one tidy textbook. It's more like a gigantic mashup of human culture, books, websites, podcasts, YouTube transcripts, images, even TikToks, unconfirmed, but let's be honest. And it's not just dumped in. Armies of people go through this stuff, tagging it, labeling it. This is a cat. This is sarcasm. This response is polite. This one isn't. Every click is a lesson that the AI soaks up. So here's the link. Large language models like ChatGPT don't know things the way that we do. They predict patterns. So training data is the map they use for those predictions. Without it, an AI is just blank code. With it, the model can generate recipes, debug code, or even help you draft your podcast notes. I wouldn't know. So next time you hear training data, remember, it's not magic dust. It's the mountains of human work and human content that gives AI its voice. And before we finish, just a little bit of a amusing take that we did see. So it looks like Arizona State just hired will.i.am as a professor. Because when you think AI governance, obviously the Black Eyed Peas frontman comes to mind here. He's teaching a new course called the Agentic Self, which sounds less like homework and more like a lost Marvel movie, if you ask me. Honestly, if this class does end up with students building an AI that sings, "Where is the love?" on loop, what are we even doing here? Nick, would you do the Agentic Self with will.i.am as the professor course?
I mean, if he teaches me to dance, some of the moves, underrated in terms of
Yeah,
that.
I do want to see the course learning outcomes. I need to see the syllabus.
Yeah. Throwing shapes 101. We'll be watching
Good.
with interest. Hope to get him on.
100%.
will.i.am, if you want to come on the pod.
Hit us up. On our deep dive this week, we are diving into a paradigm shift in education and what it means for these tech empires, these AI empires that are being built. Well, listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please leave us a review, share around within your network, and most of all, hit subscribe on whatever platform you're at. For those watching on YouTube, we're on all your podcast platforms. For those who would like to see our faces, you can find us on YouTube too. We'd love to tell you what's on next week's episode, but it's a world that moves way too fast. You'll just have to tune in. Until then, stay curious, stay intelligent, stay the human in the loop.